So I'm Doug
Okay.
Cosbie, played tight end for the Dallas Cowboys for 10 years. Was a rookie in 1979 and retired prior to the season started in 1989. Um, Played with a lot of great players and had a lot of great experiences. And just a quick background on me as a person. Um, Grew up in a in a family that my mom and dad were divorced when I was young. My father was an abusive alcoholic. Um, Grew up in East Palo Alto, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. And anyone who's not from San Francisco Bay Area or didn't grow up there, there's a lot of people that live there now that aren't from there. But if you grew up there, East Palo Alto was one of the worst neighborhoods, communities, crime infested, predominantly African American, some Hispanic, a little bit of white, like lower working class white. And I was one of those kids. And my teammates in Dallas used to joke with me. They said, because I told them, I said, I grew up in East Palo Alto and I used to get chased home from school because I was white by a bunch of ended up being my friends, but a bunch of black African American kids because I was white. And then they were like, damn, cause you went from getting chased by black guys, now you get paid to run away from black guys. And so my experience growing up is a little bit different than I think a lot of people, which I think has led me to a lot of things that I've done outside of football, working in under-resourced, underprivileged minority communities at a couple different high schools and just some nonprofits that I've founded and worked with. So comes from, obviously we all are, some of it's genetics. A lot of who we are is our environment and our experiences in life. So everybody has a unique story. Mine's a little bit different in a lot of ways. Definitely not until I was about 11 did, grow up with any kind of privilege at all. So I think I have a lot of sympathy and empathy towards a lot of the situations that have been going on for a long time that are, really come to light again in our country. And, I was been blessed and fortunate, that I was able to, my mom remarried when I was about 11 and we were able to, to move to a community with a few more resources, that I grew up with, like the first 10 years. But those things really shaped kind of my view of people and of the world and all those kind of things.
Well, it's interesting that you bring all that up because a lot of people look at just okay, I got there, and especially from our point of view. So we see draft pick Dallas Cowboys, world is great. What was the route to get there? Because it's not just I was a great high school player. I went to a Big 12 school or a Pac-12 school or whatever, and I went to the NFL, and there it is. You've got a few jumps in there.
Yeah, I have an older brother who's 6 years older than me who I'm ended up being like about a little over 6'6". My older brother's about 5'10" and a half. He was a way better athlete than me, but he had what I described earlier, we moved when I was like 10 and a half or 11 out of East Palo Alto. He was 16 or 17. I mean, he was basically, so he was one of the reasons why I had it as easy as I did as a kid because, they didn't really have gangs back then because we're talking about in the 60s. Mm-hmm. But if they did, he was in them. If they would have, I mean, he was one of the guys that, he was a great athlete. He was a tough guy, in and out of juvenile hall. So I was not the best athlete in the family. He was a great athlete, much better than me, not as big. Then I was fortunate enough that I was able to go to a really good high school, a Catholic high school, St. Francis High School in Mountain View, California, which a lot of people probably know Mountain View, California now, because I think that's Google's headquarters is in Mountain View.
Right.
I joke that I grew up what people call now Silicon Valley, when there was apple orchards, not
Right.
Apple computers and iPhones and watches, because it was all orchards. You know, back in even into the 50s, a big part of the 60s, and then it started getting developed. But anyways, I was fortunate. I was able to go to a really good high school. Had a great high school coach. I was tall, skinny. I was an okay athlete. Um, I think I had some, you know, genetic God-given um, qualities. One of them, growing to be 6'6". But I was always tall, but I was never, it was like, I think I was 5'11" when I was a freshman. I wasn't like Anthony Davis. I didn't grow 7 years or 7 inches 1 year,
In 1 year,
from
right?
a point guard to a five. But I just kind of grew inch and a half, 2 inches every year, even in a little bit in college, and I grew about a half inch even when I was in the NFL. And I was much more of I loved basketball. I played basketball, baseball, football growing up. My first experience with football was a 10-year-old Pop Warner. I hated it. I wanted to quit. My older brother wouldn't let me. Um, I much more enjoyed basketball, but 6'6" white guy that could jump, but had no shot, had no ball handling skills. You weren't going to play a whole lot of basketball
Where
at
are
high
you going to
level.
go, right?
I mean, I could bang you under the boards a little, get some rebounds, play some defense, but being realistic. And that was never the goal of the dream. I grew up being a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Roberto Clemente was like my childhood hero. You talked about Preston Pearson, and the football thing kind of really just evolved and happened, and played in high school. And I say I was at St. Francis High School. I think the tuition at the time was $500. It's like probably 20,000 now. And so I worked 3 summers at the 6 weeks in the summer at their summer camp for little kids, and it paid for my tuition. You can't do that. I mean, you can't work 6 weeks at a summer camp now and get your tuition paid at a private school. So it was a different world. Because my parents could, I think they paid for the freshman year. It was a bit of, $500 a month. I mean, they didn't take food off the table, but it was a sacrifice. In the world nowadays, there's no way that could happen.
Right.
My stepfather was 20-year retired military, fought in Korean War and World War II, was a paratrooper. So I was fortunate just with the timing. And then I think definitely based on potential, I was offered some college scholarships. The only then Pac-8 school was Washington State. I went up there for a visit. And nothing against Washington State or Pullman, Washington, but like it snowed the whole weekend. I think, the coaching staff didn't do a really good job of getting to know who you were and putting you with a host that kind of, had the same ideas about life as you. So like all I went to is parties where everyone was drunk. And I'm not saying I don't drink, but everyone, it was just a bunch of drunk college kids, a lot of drunk football players. It snowed all weekend. I'm like going, why in the hell would I want to go here?
Can't see 4 years of
So,
that, right?
Yeah. So I ended up taking a long journey. I verbally committed to Santa Clara, which I ended up playing at, because there was no signing thing then. But I then ended up going to Holy Cross in Worcester, Mass, which was another big mistake. I was there 6 weeks, left, went to a junior college just as a student for 2 quarters, and then transferred to Santa Clara the spring quarter, our freshman year. I was able to play there 4 years. Nowadays you'd lose a year. I think there was no computers. I think even then, probably technically I wasn't supposed to play 4 years, because I did play in a couple games at Holy Cross. First 2 games of the season, then I left. It was just not a great situation. My understanding is I think a lot of program kind of fell apart and a lot of kids left. I think because of the coaching staff, obviously, not the school. It's a great school. So I was lucky. I got to start 4 years at Santa Clara, and Santa Clara threw the ball. My college quarterback who was a senior my freshman year, a Hawaiian guy named Kaipo Spencer, who became a really good friend. And unfortunately, he passed away, not because of COVID, but early on in the COVID situation. He was living in Honolulu, had some significant health issues, and pretty much died of a heart attack by himself in his apartment, which is sad. But he was a great quarterback. And we played Portland State my freshman year, and Mouse Davis was the head coach, and June Jones was the quarterback. And I know June a little bit, and talking to June about 4 or 5 years ago, it was like, June, when we played you guys, so this is 1976, the fall of 1976. Kaipo Spencer threw 72 passes in a college football game. And he was 37 to 72. And I think we lost by a test. And it was like 52 to 48 or something. It was crazy. That was the start of the run and shoot, which is, kind of, a lot of people say it's like, started this whole spread offense thing, which I don't know if that's true or not. But anyways, so I said, June, man, because they threw the ball a ton. How many times did you throw the ball? He goes, well, I only threw it 54.
Only 54, right.
54 and 72. It's crazy. So
yeah.
I was a freshman. I caught 7 passes. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I caught 10 a year in high school. And I'm like thinking I did something. After the game, I look at the stats. We had a wide receiver who had a free agent trial with the Raiders named Dennis McClanahan. He caught 17 passes in 1976
right.
in a college football game. I mean, it's crazy. So I was lucky. I got to play with some really good quarterbacks. The other quarterbacks, Terry Malley, who was the head coach's son who took over the program, was a really good quarterback. John Hurley, Dave Alfaro, all these guys I played with. We threw the ball quite a bit more than most people were at the time. So I caught 120 passes in college, which now is nothing, but that was kind of a lot, especially for a tight end back then.
Right.
So, I was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Cowboys. Every year I hear the story every year at the draft that Joe Montana was on the board for their next pick, and they had Roger Staubach, Danny White, and Glenn Carano, and the Cowboys always drafted just not off need, but on their board. They just ranked guys, and as they got drafted, they took their name off the board, and they would draft the top guy on the board. And supposedly it's the only time ever that Landry's like, we'll just cut him because we got 3 guys that are better than him. I mean, Roger was the starter. Danny was grooming to be the backup, and Glenn was going into his 3rd year, was a really good quarterback. And they drafted me in the 3rd round. I was shocked to get drafted that high, and I was really surprised it was the Cowboys. I kind of thought I was going to the Seahawks, but it all worked out. And made the went to training camp, made the team. Backed up Billy Joe Dupree for 3 years, which, Billy Joe was a guy that, because again, you talked about America's team. When I was in high school,
right.
The Cowboys, I think they were in 3 or 4 Super Bowls during my high school days. And the year before I got there, they lost it to Pittsburgh. 2 years prior, they won it. So you knew everyone on the team was a household name. And Billy Joe, he was about 6'4", 6'5", almost 6'5", similar kind of build, as me. He wasn't a big, thick, muscular guy. He wasn't a Kellen Winslow kind of looking guy. And, so, he was a guy that I kind of, really, I don't want to say, form my game off of, but, I saw myself in, similar kind of body build and all that kind of stuff. And, so it was crazy going there. Roger Staubach's a quarterback, Tony Dorsett, Robert Newhouse, Preston Pearson, Drew Pearson, Tony Hill, Billy Joe Dupree, Thomas Hollywood Henderson, Ed Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, Randy White, Charlie Waters, Cliff Harris. I mean, almost all those guys should probably be in the Hall of Fame. Right. A lot of them are. And you walk into the locker room and you're going, what the hell am I doing here? And, Billy Joe was, he was always great to me. I learned a lot from him. He's another guy that's just one of the best people you ever meet. All those guys, Drew, I learned a ton from Drew. Roger Staubach playing with him for 1 year. You know, I don't know if a lot of people know this about Roger, but supposedly he's made more money. He's made more money outside of football than any NFL football player ever. He's probably up there with some of the NBA guys, with LeBron and
Right.
Michael. And he sold his company, I don't know, 3-4 years ago for like $600 or $700 million. And nobody does this. He gave to his employees, if I remember the right number, it was somewhere between 280 and $320 million
Wow.
to his employees. I think one guy he gave him $40 million. These are people that helped him build his company. But that's the kind of guy I played with. I mean, who does that?
Right. Right.
And that was Roger. Roger went to the Naval Academy, did his commitment to our country,
Right.
Then came back as, I don't know, he was a 28, 29-year-old rookie, whatever, 27, whatever he was, then still played 10, 11 years. So I was fortunate to play with him 1 year.
And that's the leader of your team, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was Captain America. He's too smart, not as in IQ intelligence, but he's too smart as in knowing it's, I don't know how to say it. He's too smart to know that what it would do to his life and his family. He should be the president of the United States. That guy could get people together to get crap done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the greatest leader I've ever been around. I mean, I coached with Bill Walsh. I played for Tom Landry. Mike Ditka was my position coach. Dan Reeves was our coordinator. Gene Stallings was our DB coach. Dick Nolan, Monty Clark were assistant. Dick Nolan was assistant coach. Monty Clark I also coached with. All these guys, great NFL head coaches. I put Roger as a leader better than any of them.
Wow.
And I learned a lot just in that 1 year, just about, a lot of things off the field from, Roger, Drew, Billy Joe. I mean, I don't know if they make them like those guys anymore. There's probably some, but like to have all these people on one team was crazy. And it's not surprising that they won so much. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were talented, but it was way more than the talent. Coach Walsh always used to talk about, he cared more about character than talent because I can teach you skill. I mean, you need some athleticism, right? You can't be 5'4" and probably be an offensive guard, but I mean, you need some measurables. But he's like, I want character and attitude, and I'll develop your skill. And I never heard Coach Landry say that, but I think the Cowboys were the same way. They wanted quality people. And my humble opinion, at the end of my career, the last 2-3 years, for whatever reason, they weren't drafting that. They were going strictly on measurables. I think personally, Tom probably lost authority, and they were going on, all on measurables. And measurables don't win football games.
Right.
You've got to have some. You can't run a 5'8" and play wide receiver. I get it. But like I jokingly told Gil Brandt one time, I go, if you're looking for dudes that can run, I got a German Shepherd dog that's faster than any receiver. He can't catch either. They were drafting dudes that could fly, but they couldn't catch.
Couldn't catch, cut. Right.
And, I mean, they weren't picking them in the first round. They were drafting them in the 5th round, 6th round. And you're at practice the first day in camp, and you go, why is this dude here? He can't play. He can run. Yeah. He's a straight line runner, but like that's not football.
Right. Couldn't make a cut, couldn't run a route. Yeah.
No, I couldn't run a route, couldn't catch a ball. Don't even think about letting someone try to hit him while he's catching the ball. He couldn't even catch the ball in there.
Right.
And I'm going like how are you picking these guys? And I had to believe, looking back on it later, Coach Landry did not have the final say anymore. I have to assume.
Okay.
Because they just went away from what they built the program on.
Well, let me take you back just a step. When, again, you say you walk into that locker room for the first time and you look around, you see Staubach and Dorsett and Too Tall Jones and all those guys. Obviously, and I get this a lot, it's like you said, what am I doing here? Well, when does it click in? It's like, I'm supposed to be here.
For interesting thing for me, I'd gotten married before I went to training camp, And and the thing that really helped me through training camp. So back in 1979, and they still did it. They had been doing it, I think, since the beginning of the Cowboys, and I don't know, that was like their 20th year or something. And then they did it for a couple more years, and then I don't know, probably with after '82 new collective bargaining agreement, they wouldn't let them. They would bring in all the rookies. I think there was 12 rounds in, all the draft picks. They would sign 60, 70 free agents. And that's the whole thing about, I'd love Gil Brandt, and if Gil ever hears this, I'm not going to apologize for saying this, but like, they bragged about finding all those free agents. When you sign 60, 70 free agents, a couple of them are going to play.
You're going to find one, yeah.
You're going to find some, like Everson Walls. If you were really good, draft him the last pick draft him in the last round, because it's free agent. You don't know he's going to sign with you. He could have signed in Cleveland. But Everson Walls, his rookie year and his second year, led the NFL in interceptions, undrafted free agent. Grew up in Dallas. Michael Downs, same year, undrafted free agent, started as safety. If you're that good, you draft those guys, and people go, who in the hell are those guys? And I'm not saying they weren't good, but anyways, I'm getting off topic.
That's all right.
So there's like 80 rookies. We show up, and they had a couple of the second year guys, maybe like Todd Christensen was there because he had knee surgery. So like guys that, maybe were on practice squad, or they didn't have practice squad, injury reserve, their rookie or whatever, or never played. So so there's like about, I don't know, 85, 90 guys there for, if I remember correctly, 10 to 12 days before the vets show up. So they cut 50, 60 guys in like this 10 or 12 days. Now the vets come. So, you don't have to be a genius to figure out, okay, now camp's really starting. And now if you think back to your high school and college experience, after 10 or 12 days of two-a-days, you're getting ready to play the season.
Right.
We're just
You're
starting.
Getting into camp.
We're just starting. And then so about a week into that, I got to the point where I was like, I don't care if I get cut. This ain't worth it. I mean, my contract was $35,000. It was $35,000, which in 1979 was okay. But I think I had some college friends that went into real estate, and they made almost 30 a year out of college. So I'm like going, I had a college degree, business major. I'll go, I want to go see my wife. I didn't care. I wasn't going to quit. I didn't care. And I think that took so much pressure off me that I just went out and did what I did. So when it got rough was, they had one more last cut, maybe like 9 more guys. That's when you're like going, oh, I've been through now I've been through rookie training camp. We played the Canton Hall of Fame game. So we had an extra preseason game, 5 preseason games, like 4 weeks of two-a-days going to that last preseason game and going, no, I don't want to get cut now.
Right.
Because, I put in too much work, and, the fun part's going to start coming where we actually get to play games. So it's a long answer to your question. So I think I really probably truly got comfortable maybe halfway through my rookie season, like during the regular season when, I was playing on special teams. I played a little bit here and there. But they just do a lot of things to test you, which I'm sure they still do. Because I remember, I think might have been the last preseason game. One of the preseason games, we played the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had just beaten the Cowboys in the Super Bowl the year before. Okay, so Mike Ditka was the special, this is how different football is now. Mike Ditka was the special teams coach, the wide receiver coach, and the tight end coach. Now there's like 6 guys have those 3 jobs.
Right.
And it's like, and I don't even know if you get coached any better, but so all the receivers, we were in the meetings all together. So I don't know, in the second quarter of the Steeler game, on a 3rd down, they put me in at, I'm not even sure what the Cowboys called it, because I've been in the West Coast offense, Bill Walsh's offense, forever. It's, the weak side outside receiver that Tony Hill played, which I would call the X. They put me in the game. I didn't even line up outside. I'm a tight end. I haven't played
Never been split
receiver
out
at all.
before, yeah.
They call a play, and so I have to run a slant, and Mel Blount's still in the game. He's pressing me. And so I'm just going, I remember, because I was the guy that just paid attention and asked questions. And I remember I had already had a conversation with Drew Pearson about running a slant first press. And Drew's like, you got to attack the tight outside shoulder, like 3 steps, get the corner, open up his hips. Then you either got to swim, rip, some kind of way, get back underneath him to get back inside. So I was like, here we go. So I do that exactly. Mel opens, because I'm thinking I'm not even getting off the line of scrimmage. He's just going to put one hand in my chest and plays over.
Right.
He opens his hips. I swim back underneath him. For some reason, I don't know, probably Danny White was in the game. Then it might have been Roger. I don't remember. Whoever was a quarterback, for some reason, had the idea to throw me the ball against Mel Blount on a slant and press. They throw me the ball, I catch it, and I remember thinking, now I catch it, I'm taking a couple steps, and I'm waiting just to get Colcock clubbed in the back of the head from Mel Blount. Caught it, he tackled me, it was like a 12, 14-yard gain. I never lined up a wide receiver again for 3 years. So I'm not going, at the time I never thought about it, but this was years ago, way after my career. I'm going that was a test. Maybe number one, does he even know what route to run? I don't think they expected me to necessarily get open and catch the first down. And I'm sure it has something to do when the game is over and the next day you're back to camp, they're watching game film, they're probably going, damn, this rookie got open against Mel Blount on press on a slant. And he don't even play wide receiver. I'm sure it had some impact on the coaching staff.
Sure, yeah.
I know, 'cause I've done a lot of coaching that would on me. But, stuff like that. But even after that happened, in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I was lucky as hell. I'm not jumping up and down, beating my chest. I'm the baddest MFer in the world. I'm like, damn, how did that happen?
Mel Blount fell asleep on me, right?
Yeah, Mel Blount probably same thing. Who's this friggin' rookie? I thought he was
They're
a
not
tight
throwing
end.
to him, right?
They ain't throwing to him. Who knows? It all happened for a reason, apparently. But and like I say, even then, it was a long answer to your question. It probably was halfway through my rookie season. Week 4, 5, 6 of the regular season. You making some plays on special teams, and you're actually getting in. I was able to play a little bit. I played short yardage goal line, but I got in here and there in some games because they used to shuttle the plays in with the players, and they were using tight ends, some with Billy Joe and Jay Saldy, and occasionally, again, I don't know why, because I was a hard worker and studied, and I know now, having coached for a long time, coaches have soft spots for those kind of guys, and obviously they saw potential in me, so I'm sure. Coach Ditka was probably like, hey, we need to get Cosbie in a little bit here and there, to help continue his development. I don't know, because they don't tell you that stuff.
Right. You got to figure it out on your own. Well, yeah. Okay, so you go from now I kind of fit, and this is kind of a little off point, but not really. You're in, again, this is the old Cowboy fan of me coming out. You go from Ditka, you got Gene Fugit, you've got Billy Joe, you've got yourself, when you start showing up on national TV and people see you playing, hey, I know that guy. I grew up with him. How does that transformation work that you're still immersed in what you're doing, but yet you're playing with the Dallas Cowboys? Is that a weird feeling, or is it just, well, that's outside of football?
Yeah, I think a lot of them were like, how in the hell did he get there? Right. He was never that good. And then, I didn't have much experience with, for modern day lingo, haters, but, there's some, when I go whatever, and, the thing haters are going to hate, a lot of people are like, oh man, you're so lucky they didn't have social media back then. And I like what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said. No one makes you sign up on social media. No one makes
Right.
professional athletes or celebrities or just general people. Nobody makes you. When you're born, they don't say, here's your social media account, you got to use it.
Right.
Because I don't have one. Um, uh, I wouldn't have one. If they had them when I was playing, it's like, I don't need to tell the world what I think.
Right.
I mean, I mean, like I got, at the time, and so I'll get involved to help make change, but I don't need to tell the world every
That you're
3 minutes
doing.
what I think
Right.
about something. And plus, the last time I checked, and I'm not saying, I mean, like I think a lot of celebrities and people with influence are doing a lot of good things on social media. I'm not saying that, but the last time I checked, you can't. Social media is all about this.
Right.
You're saying something, which a lot
You're
of
not
times it
doing it.
needs
Right.
to be said. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking that, but it's like, and there are some influencers, celebrities, and athletes that don't take to social media, that just go do stuff. That would have been me. I don't need, I'm a person of faith, and I know in the Bible, Jesus talked about don't be like the hypocrites. Like, right? When you're going to pray, go pray in private. You don't need to go pray in
Right.
front of everybody, let everyone know you're praying. And when you do something good, you don't got to, you can do it in private. Like, I'm the person on GoFundMe. When I donate money, it's anonymous. I mean, your name's still on there because your payment, but I don't need people like, I don't need to pound my chest and jump up and down and go, look what I'm doing. I mean, there's a
Right.
time when you're doing something big to be part of the spreading the word and in the quote unquote market it, but that's different than pounding your chest and going, look at me. And I think there's a lot of professional athletes today that are doing great things that aren't pounding their chest. We hear about it just because media is 24/7, bazillion outlets.
Right.
We hear about it, but they're not pounding their chest. But then there's some that, I question the motive when it's all about just pounding your chest. It's good that they're still helping, but to me, it's like, you just you do what you know is right. And so I coached a long time. I coached at two minority high schools. One of them, Sacramento High School, which is a public charter school that Kevin Johnson's organization runs. I was the athletic director, head football coach there for about 4 years. And in every place I've been a head coach, I've been a head coach at a small college, started a professional league that lasted like 2 weeks, like decades ago, a Hawaiian school in Hawaii. And in every place I've been a head coach, I have one team rule. It's called the do right rule. Do what you know is right. And then I say, here's my cell phone number. If you're in a situation you're not sure if it's right, I don't care if it's 3 a.m, call me, text me. We can talk about the situation. And then, at the inner city school, it was predominantly all African American. I just said, like, if you're in a situation and you know what's right and wrong, and if you really don't, act like your grandma's with you.
Right.
Okay? Do what you would do if she was standing right there with you at that party or at the whatever, And I coached a kid who he would be an NFL running back right now, that as a sophomore in high school was a gang hit, got shot in the back of the head at a party. We dealt with and there's a number of guys I coached that are not in jail, in prison. One of them, 18 felony counts of carjacking, not auto theft, carjacking, putting a gun to the driver's head, get out of the car. But we were dealing with some really rough kids, and they made some bad decisions, but, most of them, all the ones that I worked with, they had goodness in them. They weren't horrible people at all. They were in bad situations, made bad choices, came from bad environments. Because again, I'm a man of faith, and the beginning of the Bible in Genesis, God said that, let us make man in our image. So all of us are made in his image, and God made us all. Like, so, there's good in all of us, right? And it's like, I just don't get how people can just hate somebody like they don't even know.
Right.
Right. I don't know, I'm kind of getting off on a whole lot of things, but
no, that's fine. That's fine.
but it's just this country and it's just in a horrible place right now. And if everybody just, if everyone did what was right, not what you think is right, but what is right, like get back to that do right rule. Like most people know deep down inside what's right and wrong, and they
Right.
choose not always to do what's right. Some people maybe really don't, but to me, I think that's my life experience. That's really rare. They know, but they choose not to. It gets
And
back to the thing in coaching. You either can't or you won't. And once you show me you can, then when you don't do it, it's because you don't want to do it,
right,
right?
right.
And most people can do the right thing, but they don't always want to do the right thing.
Well, sometimes you don't think you have the choice when you do. And that's the
Yeah,
thing as a mentor, that is your responsibility to point them in the right direction. And as you said, if you have a question, let me know. I'm a former athletic director and coach as well. So I've been in
yeah,
that situation where you're like, no, this is not as hard as you're making it. I
no,
understand that it's not an easy choice, but the easy choice isn't always the easy choice. So you
exactly.
have to
Yeah,
understand where you're going. And like you said, that was a perfect thing. Act like you would if your grandmother was standing next to you. That's a perfect way of
yeah.
putting it.
I mean, like and there's a few kids that their grandmas might have been worse than them, but not many, not many. Most of them, and they definitely understood what you're saying, and I don't have super close relationships with a lot of those kids anymore, but I still do have some,
Hmm.
and I'll run into them and see them, and they're all, they're grown men now. They're in their mid to late 20s, and um, some of them, say, "Hey, coach, man, like some of the stuff that you talked to us about, it's really, really helped me. It really made a difference." And you know, they have kids now, and they say, I quote you sometimes to my kids. I don't say that Coach Cosbie said this, but like, my coach said this or whatever.
Right.
And to me, that's why you get involved with high school kids. Like college and professional, maybe you get involved for different reasons, but high school kids, most every high school coach I know or administrator, they're there. I mean, yes, they want to win, but they're really there to make a difference in kids' lives, and that. And because I had a great high school football coach that made a big difference in my life and a lot of people's lives, and you know, and, and a great college coach that was the same way. And um, so you try to help where you can, and you know, try to call out, you know, um, crap when you see it.
I have and I wish I could call it up right now. I have the perfect picture for what you're saying. It's a juxtaposition between when Lou Alcindor went to UCLA and he's standing next to John Wooden, and then there's the flip is when now he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they're both. I mean, John Wooden's in his 80s or whatever, and Kareem's in his 50s or 60s or whatever, and they're now Kareem is holding up John Wooden, walking to receive an award. And it's like,
Yeah,
I'm able to help you because you were able to help me, that kind of
yeah,
thing. And
yeah,
that's perfect. Some of the kids that I coached are, they're now coaches themselves, which is really weird. But
yeah. I know.
you're
I know.
talking to them about what they're doing, and they say, we're spreading what you spread to us, which is what I'm spreading from the coaches that I had. So it just all kind of keeps flowing.
No, for sure. And said there's a lot of current athletes, ex-athletes, people that aren't athletes that are doing a lot of good stuff. And again, the ones the vast majority, um, whatever the percentage is, don't pound their chest about it, so you don't really
Right.
hear about it. Unless they're someone like LeBron, and I don't think LeBron pounds his chest. LeBron just goes and do it. But when LeBron does something, it, it's going to be national, international news because it's
Right.
LeBron James. You know, with his his promise school in Ohio.
Right.
I don't know if he went around pounding his chest. He just went and did it.
Right.
Then people hear about it. They're like, "Oh, can you talk to us about it?" And so, yeah, I'll talk to you about it. And there's a lot of people that are doing that kind of stuff. That because they don't have the profile on the platform, not even the platform, they don't have the profile. It's not news to talk about, you know, some people doing it. And real quick, not to pound my chest, but I'll give you a perfect example. I started a nonprofit a while ago that involved my old high school, St. Francis in Mountain View, which is in the heart of Silicon Valley. It's a very affluent school now. I mean, there are some minority students there, not many African American students, and so started a nonprofit that we were taking. We were helping African American kids from East Palo Alto, this is where I grew up, worked with the school to, look, you scholarship them, and maybe you lower your interest requirements a little bit if you have to. And what we're going to do, we're going to mentor them and give them the academic support so they can thrive, okay? And so one of the kids that went through the program, he was, and I mean, we'd like if they were athletes, they didn't have to be. One girl was like in the music or something. We wanted them to do something. This guy was a running back. He got a 4-year Division I scholarship, and about, oh man, I don't know. He graduated high school 10, 12 years ago, but about 3 years ago, he contacted me. He said, hey, even I never really coached him, but probably like you, a lot of people, they call you coach, say, coach, I just want you to know what me and some of my black fraternity brothers from college started a nonprofit doing similar thing to what you were doing that really helped me, but we're starting with kindergartners. And I was like, that's way better than what I did. I was starting with 14-year-olds. I go, we all know the younger you can start, but it's just, again, it's just talking about, it's just, that, he may have done it, he probably would have done this anyways, but, if you can be a little bit of the motivation, to help someone to do that, because you just don't know how you're going to affect anybody. I mean, I have a nonprofit now in dealing with international development of American football and trying to get international kids that have the skill set, not the football skill, to come and get a college degree in the U.S. and be able to play football. And so we've worked with some kids out of Italy, and I've had 3 of them. 2 of them are getting ready to graduate college. One of them already graduated. He's back in Italy. And we're working with a kid from a Nigerian and a Ghanaian right now also, but student visas are impossible right now to get.
Oh yeah.
From anywhere, but especially if your skin's black, this administration Nigerians are like, but anyways, that's a whole different conversation that may never end. But are kind of like saying a slogan, because we're only dealing with a couple kids at a time, is like, change your life, change the world. If you can make a positive change in one life, you have helped change the world. Okay. Yeah. If you could do 10 million, it's a bigger change, but like, we can only do what we can do. And it's like, you probably all know that starfish story, right? About the beach with all the millions of starfish and the kids picking up some and throwing them back in the water. And lady goes, what are you doing? You can't save all that. He goes, yeah, but I saved that one.
Right.
I mean, like, so that's because of where I came from, how I grew up, and the people that helped me, that's what I've tried to do, with, it's been a couple of generations now, of young people. And, obviously we can't help all of them, but we can help. We can help one.
Right. Yeah.
And
that's it.
If
right.
everybody made a positive difference in one young person's life in this country, come on now.
Right. And that's what we're looking at. Right.
A positive difference. They're like, hey, we're all in this together. Why can't we just, why can't we love each other? Why can't we help each other? If everybody took that mentality and said, I'm gonna help one kid, like, we'd still have a lot of differences. We'd have a lot of differences still, which is okay, but we'd be in a lot better place.
Well, it's as you said, you have that one coach, that one teacher, that one mentor that you still remember vividly, 40, 50 years later. And they've influenced you to do something positive for somebody else. Yep. I'm fortunate to have a good set of parents, but also the parents of my friends in the neighborhood influenced me to do well. My teachers influenced me to do well, to think of others, to be positive. And like you said, we're in a situation now where the first word you hear from someone is "I hate" or "I don't like" or "this guy," and my parents would said, "How those words come out of your mouth? How are you writing those words down? That that hate shouldn't, even if you dislike something, you don't call somebody that or this or and then all that spews from that is more negativity, even if you might be on the right side of things."
No, I mean, for sure. I mean, I learned at a really early age, really early age, is like, how wrong. I mean, like as a 5 and 6, 7-year-old, how wrong it is to draw a judgment on somebody by the way they look. I mean, because I had it happen to me, as a little kid. Like, you're lighter than us, so we can't like you, and that had a profound effect on me for my whole life. But there's not even a logical argument for it. Like, there's a number of songs that talk about, we all bleed the same, we all have red blood. I mean, like the inside of us are all exactly the same. I mean, we're all made uniquely different, but as human beings, once you get past I don't know how thick is skin, like the rest of it's all the friggin' same.
It's all the same, yeah.
It's like, it's maddening and frustrating, like how people can't just, well, I'm going to say can't just see that. They do see it, but they don't like it. But like, based on what? Like, I mean, it's like,
well, hopefully with conversations like this and with conversations with people like yourselves, we're going to make people understand that, like you said, we're all different. I mean, I have a brother who is 9 years older than I am, and we have the same last name. That's about it. Now, that's not really true, but I mean, I'm 6'2".
I agree, because that's like my older, brother.
5'9", right.
Same thing. Is like completely different people from the same parents.
Right. You stick us in the same room, and if you didn't know we were related, you wouldn't go, "That's his brother." Now, once we open our mouths, we're almost identical. We almost sound the same. But you wouldn't notice that from him standing there, me standing there. But we are alike, yet we're not alike. And I think we have that in common with a lot of people. So I appreciate you taking the time. I really do.
One thing just to kind of finish with real quick, talking about that. I mean, I'm a big NBA fan because, like I said earlier, basketball was always my thing. And, I love what Charles Barkley said the other night. He was talking about a sport analogy about athletes playing under pressure. But he said, pressure can do two things. It can bust pipes or create diamonds.
Right.
And then I think Shaq or someone said, Pat Riley used to have a saying that pressure shows you what's truly inside. Like if you put pressure and squeeze an orange juice comes out. So I think in, tough times, what this country's going through, you're finding out what's really inside of people.
Right.
And I think, unfortunately, too many Americans, their pipes are busting. They're not turning into diamonds.
Right. Right. I agree.
And I'd never heard that saying before, and I love that saying. And, it's a great saying for an athlete in pressure, but I think just our country and society under pressure, we need a lot more diamonds and a lot less busted pipes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're seeing what people truly think as opposed to what they used to say they thought. And it's like, okay, we have a long way to go, but also we're seeing greatness out of people that maybe we didn't expect it from as well.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, I appreciate it. I could do this all day. I really could, because you've opened up a lot of ideas in my head that are not just sports related. And I'd like to continue this another time if we could, because obviously we have a lot of things going on, and you're making sense on a lot of the things that you're involved in that I'd like people to know about, even if it's not a media blitz kind of thing, but other people may get involved because of your involvement.
Sure. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, I'm fairly available, with a little planning.
Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Frank.